hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, and joined by Christy Casciano-Burns and Mike Benelli. And today we're excited to welcome a leader who sits at the intersection of youth sports and technology. He's also a hockey dad who has lived and lives the 6 a.m. rink life just like the rest of us. You've heard me say at the end of our show many times, share this episode in your TeamSnaps. Well, guess what? Our guest today, Peter Frintzilas, is the CEO of TeamSnap, the platform used by over 25 million families in 19,000 plus organizations across 100 different sports and activities to manage schedules, communication, payments, and more. What kind of stats are those? TeamSnap also just announced a new partnership with Bauer Hockey, you may have heard of them, to launch an in-app content hub featuring equipment guidance, pro-led drills, and community challenges, which are available right now in the app. I've seen them. I went on there yesterday, kept looking at them. We're talking youth hockey, TeamSnap, and more today. Peter, welcome to Our Kids Play Hockey.
Thanks, Lee. Appreciate you having me. Looking forward to the conversation this morning.
We're looking forward to it too, man. And we have to ask this right off the bat, right? You've got 3 kids in hockey. You are right in the midst of the youth hockey journey. Why don't you tell everybody their ages, where they're at? Tell me about what your chosen drink is at 4:30 in the morning when you got to wake up. How do you manage all that?
Yeah, so I have 3 sons, 7, 5, and 3. So we are in the mites, mini mites, and just getting our 3-year-old on the rink and holding onto a cone on the weekends phase of things. We are definitely up at 5 a.m., if not 4:45 for dad. But always go to stop by either Starbucks or Dunkin', depending on the route to the rink, in order to just optimize time overall. That's typically on the back of carrying my 7-year-old on my back downstairs, getting him dressed and getting him in the car with a bagel and waking him up along the way, as you guys know.
Pete, did you play hockey? Just curious.
No, so I was a 2-sport athlete with baseball and football. I played a lot of roller hockey in our neighborhood, which didn't require the 6 a.m. wake up. But, we were at the firehouse till 11, 12 at night on some nights under the lights playing after football, baseball practice, whatever we're all coming home for. So I've always had a huge affinity for the game, huge Rangers fan. And, we had the opportunity. We're in Southern Connecticut. Ice hockey is definitely one of the top sports here, and, got our boys into the programs early.
And so you feel the chaos that all of us feel as hockey parents. You're right in the throes of it.
We are in the throes of it day in and day out at this point, and we're not even full into like everything kicking in. That comes kind of mid-October when our youngest starts to get on the ice. So between my wife and I, we'll have 4 or 5 different skate times on Saturdays and Sundays, and we'll be driving all around the tri-state area.
Yeah, divide and conquer is absolutely the way to survive this. One of the things I love, Pete, in this conversation is that you're obviously using TeamSnap as a hockey parent as well, right? So there's always conversations around the rink about TeamSnap and organization and how things work. So I want to ask this question. We will dive deep into TeamSnap here, but using your own app, I imagine you're seeing things now as a hockey father that you're like, this is great. This can be improved on. Can you talk about the experience of being a CEO using your own app in the chosen sport of your children?
Yeah, so Lee, I had the privilege of stepping into this role back in April of 21. And at that point, my first son was 3, our second was 1. And, we weren't even kind of scratching outside of the 9 a.m., get the kids on skates and holding on the cone and maybe some, baseball tossing around the backyard. And so being able to see what we've been able to do with the growth trajectory of TeamSnap, the passion and the emotion that our organization has around building just great software. And I'm representative of another, nearly 200 employees, many of which either have kids that are going through it, have had kids that have gone through it, or athletes themselves. And getting to wake up every morning knowing that we're building technology, we're building tools, we're building value to millions of youth sport families around the country and around the globe, that's motivating to everybody, right? Yeah. And so now being able to go through it firsthand and, being kind of Southern Connecticut here, I always say we're in the mecca of youth sports. It's everything right and wrong with youth sports. And I'm seeing it firsthand right now. And yes, there is every day, a different idea or just a little different way of things that maybe we can do better differently. And, we'll get into kind of all the investments and focus that we've been putting in the evolution of our platform and a lot of new technology that we're going to be coming out with. But, we're living it. and my executive team, we all have kids. I mean, we'll get on here right after the filming of this, and our Monday morning discussion will always start off like, how'd everybody do this weekend, right? What are the funny stories?
That's how ours starts too.
Right. We're living it every day.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I wonder.
right. Full disclosure, we use TeamSnap for our kids. I don't know what life would be like without it because, as we mentioned about chaos, you certainly helped organize that. For parents who aren't familiar yet, what do you think TeamSnap solves best in the hockey world?
Yeah, so Christy, there's two sides of our technology offering. Like one is the one that we're all using on a daily basis, which is a mobile platform to help with communication, scheduling, directions, assignments, right? Who's bringing the oranges in between periods? Who's responsible for potentially filming the game? And then the other half of it is more of a B2B software suite for the operators, admins, and owners of clubs and leagues to organize their programming, organize their organization. And that's everything from upfront, kind of what we consider registration, through financial management, through rostering, through how does the organization communicate down to the parents. And that's really the utility side of where we've been focused as an organization over the last 15 years. And what you're starting to see, and we'll talk about the Bauer partnership as kind of one of those first forays in, is now us leaning much more on the lifestyle things of youth sports, and how do we help arm, whether it's parents, whether it's volunteer coaches, through content, and whether that's in partnership with great brands like Bauer, with the who's who of the professional leagues, or even beginning to get into more of the on-device video streaming, allowing parents, coaches to stream the game for those family members that can't be there, and create highlights and keep kind of the fun focus for the kids. We're much more focused on cool, fun digital overlays after the kid scores a goal than I am telling you how fast the puck's going, right? Like, and that's really that family center of orientation that we take as we're building our products.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about that piece, that family piece, right? And you guys are living it now. Could you just talk a little bit about the platform and how, like the protections that are in place for families that obviously, I think at any youth hockey organization, soccer, football, whoever's using your platform, right, has to be very conscious of, well, what can we see publicly and what can we see privately, and then how do those two worlds work together?
Yeah, and Mike, I mean that's also like, again, having kind of all of us in this right now, having just gone through my safe sport training last week, like we all see that level of governance, and that varies, right, by sport, and also between the US and Canada. Like that's where our prevalent kind of usage is. About 30% of our overall traffic is coming up from the Canadian provinces. And so we are constantly looking at, as anyone in this software mobile space needs to, relative to privacy, security, the various jurisdictions. State governments aren't making this any easier for us, right? How data privacy is being controlled and managed within California versus Colorado versus New York. Like, we are extremely attuned to that. And then there's other things like COPA and just the security of, we have kids that are 14 years and under, and we gear our offering and everything in our user license agreement and the security that we're building around it. Our user base is everyone on this call, right? The parents that are managing the families. But then as kids get a little bit older into the teenage years, and they want to be take more ownership, right, of their own scheduling. What time do I need to get up in the morning? Mom, can I see the schedule? Because I got to plan my own social events. We want to ensure that the layer of security underneath that is well, rock solid. And prior to leading TeamSnap, I was actually at a global fintech company selling software into the world's largest 50 banks for about 7.5 years, right? And so that level of security, privacy is really ingrained in me. It's ingrained in our DNA, and it's something we take extremely seriously. We have to, or else, frankly, like, you don't have the right to be in the space.
Yeah, I think sometimes people don't realize how seriously you take that at TeamSnap, because it is a massive part of it. When we were designing this episode, one of the questions we could not get out of the way was privacy and that type of information. So thank you for sharing that. Well, one of the things I want to dive into too is I've used a lot of different apps. Again, it's not usually up to me, right? It's up to the organization that I'm with. But I haven't found one yet that's been as fully inclusive as TeamSnap. And even little simple things like, where's the game? I tap on the map and I have the choice of Google Maps and Apple Maps, actually. That saves me a lot of time in the morning. I know I can go there. I've also seen TeamSnap from the organization end with organizations that I work with. And what you find out is TeamSnap is actually a lot bigger than you realize. I think and there's nothing wrong with this. If you're just a parent taking your kid to hockey, you see one side of it. But Pete, can you talk for a second about how vast TeamSnap really is, and maybe even dive into a couple of the features that maybe people don't know about, right? That you wish more people knew this is here. And feel free to talk about the Bauer Hub as well with that. I'm just saying there's so many features on TeamSnap that I don't think people know about.
Yeah, it's a wide-ranging portfolio, Lee, and from a organizational perspective, we're sitting on, for those that are in technology, like 4 very different technology stacks. We have our business to business software, what you call a SaaS, or software as a solution. That's kind of software through the website that's used to manage the business. There's an entire fintech stack. That's how we help organizations to take in their money through registration. How do you manage that? There's all the interchange that sits underneath that. There's all the privacy, the security, the tokenization of credit cards. Then we have our consumer stack, which is what we're all using. That's much more mobile focused. And at peak times during the day, we have over 2 million people on platform, right? And so the scale of that cloud flexibility, stability, being able to provide that service independent of where people are, and then to the point we just made, all the security and privacy that needs to sit underneath that is a massive infrastructure. It's a massive part of our operation. And then lastly, as we're starting now to get into more on the video and streaming side, that's an entirely different set of technology and infrastructure that sits underneath that. But Lee, to your point, like, TeamSnap's a very interesting company. If you look at the history of this space, about 15 plus years ago, you had what are still kind of the 2 predominant leaders. You had TeamSnap on one side of ledger, you had Sports Engine on the other side of ledger. TeamSnap started as a family-centric, let's build the best mobile app to help with the organization of the team, the communication between parents, coach, and parent, and really hit grassroots wildfire at the time where a younger generation of parents were coming up with their iPhone and wanting that app ecosystem and everything to be on the app. And really, how did we digitize kind of what used to be the telephone chain, right? The phone chain. We were
I've used those before.
Yeah. Right. You missed the phone chain. Like, we switched rinks. I didn't get the message. I was coming right from work. And that was the problem. How do you avoid showing up at the wrong field, the wrong rink at the wrong time? And that was the core problem. And on the other side of the ledger, the founding team at Sports Engine went much more on the business end and started what has now become kind of the sport management registration market, of which TeamSnap over the last 6-7 years has begun to enter into with force. And that's where, Lee, the kind of the suite of software that you're mentioning really resides. And that's us more focused on the professionals and the volunteers that are running these organizations, much of which are small to medium-sized businesses, right? There's 200,000 plus of them across the U.S. that are helping to provide the programming of sport. There's tens of thousands of others that are volunteer-led, where it's not someone's full-time. And so the dichotomy between I am a motivated entrepreneur, probably a former athlete that really wants to go start the business around the programming of sport to make kids' lives better, I'm focused on that 24/7. And I probably have a team that's focused on that 24/7. But then I also have the volunteer-led, whether it's the local municipal league, the church league, that, at best, someone's able to dedicate 4, 5, 10 hours a week. And how do we balance that level of sophistication with the simplicity of kind of that consumer business end? And all of that goes into our product design. And it is a balance that we continue to strike.
It is an ecosystem. And just before we ask the next question, I do just want to, just for our audience, Christy, you'll love this too. Let's just reminisce quickly about 1995 hockey. And, again, you're right. For the younger parents, I'll tell this in a story. I showed my dad TeamSnap, and I just tapped the map, and it came up. And he starts talking about, we used to have paper maps, and we used to have to draw out the route. He goes, Lee, you were no help whatsoever when you were 15 years old. And then, there was no communication. Like, on the way to the rink, you had to hope you were going there. And look, the simple thing of, hey, we're in locker room 31. On TeamSnap today. I mean, it's amazing when you think about what's happened in the last 30 years. Go ahead, Christy. I just wanted to walk down memory lane.
And even things like weather, we get blizzards here, right? And you drive through the blizzard, you get to the rink, and you didn't get the email.
The game's canceled. It was canceled 4 hours ago.
And then the devastation.
What are you talking about?
I held those grudges on my parents for a week. Like, if we showed up the wrong field or missed the game, like, that was in the household for a week.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's nobody feeling bad about putting Rand McNally out of business, but I think I think one of the things that I find, like, and so with technology, right, Peter, comes like the burden of technology, like like now, okay, we have all this technology. That's great. Everybody's on the system. Everybody's signed in. Everybody's, grandma, mom, dad, the babysitter, the nanny, everybody else is on there. How now, or what would you suggest from an organizational point of view to manage that technology? I get, like, even me, like, I'll go through and say, okay, what notices do I want to have on this damn thing? Do I want emails? Do I want text messaging? Do I want to know when a game's changed? Do I want to know when somebody starts a chat? Do I want to know, and me as a coach, like, I live by the communication piece from the RSVP perspective. Like, I
Right.
need to
Yeah.
know
Me too.
and train my families that you have to go on there. I need to know if I have two goalies. I want to know if I have a full roster of players. I want to know if everybody's coming. I want to know everybody knows it's half ice or full ice or
Yep.
whatever it is. So you could just talk a little bit about, as you're developing the programs and all the back end stuff, what goes into determining, what do you want to have complete access to and what should you not really have to have toggled on all the time?
Yeah, and so Mike, one, let me just stress more. I think that the evolution of this technology space in youth sports, right? Like, we have not, as service providers, done our audience a great service. And as this thing has expanded, and Lee, you mentioned before all the different apps that are out there, and oftentimes, in most cases, frankly, it's not the coach or the parent's choice. It's coming from the administrator, the operator's decision, and their first and foremost decision point should be: is this going to help me run my organization better? And secondary, what is that experience for the parents? And that's really the unique position. If anyone's asked me what's TeamSnap's like kind of unique, magic sauce in the space, is like, we come from that consumer lens, but we've rebuilt the organization with experienced enterprise software developers. And now we are focused on, Mike, your administrative operating day in and day out, while still balancing that consumer mobile side. And the challenge with this is just the proliferation of all the apps that are out there, right? Whether you're using, Sports Engine or Crossbar for registration, you're using TeamSnap, using another mobile app for communication, you've got LiveBarm for streaming, you've got game sheets for scoring. Like, how do we start to bring all that together? And so, Mike, to address your question head on, like, first and foremost, like, what we take a lot of pride in is being very upfront with our end customers on what we can do and what we can't do. And I do think there are, unfortunately, too many of our peers that might try to sell an all-in-one platform where maybe they only have 50% of what should actually be done. Second, I think through that partnership discussion, if you are feeling in a position where someone is like overselling you on certain value, I understand you need this, but let's talk about this. It's probably because they can't do this that you really need that well. And to answer, like, I don't know, Mike, should you have the emails or the text or how to take that communication? But I have a team that's going to walk you through that and help to understand what are those real challenges that you're going through. What type of family do you have across these different teams? Are these the uber engaged families where you actually don't have to worry about people going on the app? They're going to put in availability. Or is it, I have other teams that I'm on, my 5-year-old soccer team that I'm coaching, like, the parents are never in the app. So it's like, I got to text everybody. And like, how do you balance that? Some of the other things we're doing too is like, why, as a parent, should I be going into the app? And so how do we build more value in it? And we'll get into Bauer, but like, how do we start to integrate what my son is going to do at practice tomorrow from the coach's lens, but with value that I'm going to see in order to prep him as we're getting to practice? So is there visibility into, hey, here's going to be the practice plan. Here are the drills. Here are some of the key concepts that we're going to be hitting on in practice tomorrow from the coach, easily selectable. That's then pushed out to the parent so that on the ride home, we not only am I switching to directions, but it's, hey, Romeo, Tristan, like, here are kind of the 3 things you guys are going to work on today. What do you think about that? Like, what is there any other questions you have as you're getting in there? And so they're actually a little bit more mentally prepped going into that practice than, coming in blind.
I want to say this.
Yeah,
too. So, Mike, to your point, we need you to make a coach's emergency button where we tap it and everybody's phone buzzes. Are you coming to practice tonight?
Yeah.
Just a joke on that. But, I do want to ask this too.
That's not a bad
Peter.
idea, though. Really.
Yeah, coach emergency, the phone just
We'll
goes
get
crazy.
AI on that one.
It's like the Apple emergency thing. It's just set your availability for tonight.
Yeah.
But I do want to say this too. Look, I'm the owner of a small hockey company, right? And one of the things I hear all the time is, what you should do. You know what change you should make. And it's not that I don't appreciate that. It's just, I think it's tough sometimes for people to understand, like, a great idea is a great idea, but putting it into play, can be hard. And I think what happens with some of your competitors, as you alluded to, is they see an aspect of, I'd like to improve upon that. Okay. I'm asking you as a CEO, this is actually kind of a hockey question too, because I can make a metaphor here about aspects of your game and how you need to improve on your game or find different parts of it. As the CEO, you are aware of all of these changes, and this will lead into the Bauer conversation for sure, right? How do you compartmentalize someone saying, hey, look, I was joking about the coaches button, but saying, you know what would be great? This. Because it's not like you can just snap your fingers and it appears on the app the next day to 25 million people, right? Yeah. How do you approach that as the leader and decide when something's going to be looked at, implemented, launched, so forth and so on?
Yeah, so that's where I think the maturity and experience of how do you run a world-class software business comes into play much more than is this a youth sports tech business. And I think in this space, because of where we are in the maturity of our market, there are a number of incredible founders that have built great businesses, but that's all they've done to this point, right? They haven't gone off and built massive software platforms for either the JP Morgans or the Apples or, you know, more on the consumer oriented side. And so bringing kind of that day in, day out mentality. I mean, my CTO was leading engineering organizations at Microsoft and then used to run all the technology at Zynga, right? World's largest digital gaming company. Like, how do you continue to look at the behavioral attributes of what's going on in the platform, understand how people are using your technology, but most importantly, numbers 1 through 3 is our team is out there in the market, in the field, having the conversations day in and day out. And that's not my salespeople. That's our executive team. That's our product team. That's our product marketing team. So that we're hearing these challenges and having, you know, individuals like yourself, we like walk us through step by step. You come into the office or you come into the facility. What are you doing? What are you looking at first? Is it your email? Is it your Google dashboard? Like, what does that look like? And take us through those workflows and where are the actual points that we continue to improve? And, you know, we've been investing heavily in a modernization of all of our platform. That's in partnership with a company that we acquired called Mojo Sports about 1.5 years back. And, you know, we're excited over the next couple months to begin teasing out and then bringing all that technology to market. And I can tell you, we've done thousands and thousands of hours of conversations across parents, coaches, operators, admins, across all of our kind of top 8 team sports. And, you know, we're really excited about what we've been doing. And, you know, that's the approach we take. It's not the same approach everyone else takes, but, you know, a lot of the automation, a lot of the tooling that's coming out, that's really helpful to make people maybe development faster, but it's not going to change the conversation that we're going to have over 30 minutes and me really understanding your business.
Right.
Yeah, Peter, I'd love to talk about, and you mentioned it a few minutes ago, we'll get into Bauer. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the collaboration and how do you keep that guidance unbiased?
Yeah, well, interesting question. So one, let me just kind of the genesis of where kind of Bauer and some of the Pro League relationships that we do have came to about. As I said, we acquired a business called Mojo Sports back in December of 23. And Mojo Sports was being built by and led by 2 founders, 2 incredible gentlemen, one of which I just mentioned, Reed Schaffner, who's now our CTO at TeamSnap. The other was Ben Sherwood, and Ben was a longtime Disney executive, ran all of ABC, Disney Television for a decade plus under Bob Iger. And, you know, he left Disney in 2018 and his kids were coming up, young teenagers. And he thought there's got to be a better way to improve the experience of what I'm going through in California and his kids were playing soccer on the field with media. And how did he apply his media lens and all the experience he had over a number of decades creating incredible content across the globe down into this youth sports market? And so him and Reed partnered up. They built great technology. They built essentially, think of what's a master class type of environment for coaches and for parents. So everything spanning, here is a full season in a box, skills, drills, supporting video. How do you run a 45, 60, 90-minute practice with a U12, U10, U8 team? And enabling the coaches to be able to quickly go in, make those modifications, and then we're essentially presenting what is an idea for 8 weeks of practices. Now, your higher end coaches that have been doing this for a long time, I want to be able to provide the rails for them to take all that expertise and push it out. This is much more focused, I'd say, on the 80% of the volunteer first-time coach market, right? So that someone that might be voluntold, as I'm sure everybody here has, you're going to do this, I never coached. I never played soccer before, but I volunteered to coach my 5-year-old, and I went on, and I've got a ton of backyard drills. Soccer, the FC Barcelona way. We've got a great partnership with MLS, Junior NBA, and hockey's been an area that we continue to expand into. And so with the Bauer relationship, it is very much focused on those types of skills and drills. And, it's everything from on-ice drills and performance tips from kind of ice hockey pros and how to improve performance through just helpful guidance for hockey families, right? It's also the soft skills. And we want to be very clear. And I know you guys have a version of or one of your 4 shows that's more geared towards kind of that drive home, like that soft conversation, when to have it, how to help arm the parents. That's also just as important. And obviously, look, there's, in partnership with Bauer, as you get into more apparel, like there's clearly some points in which they're weaving in their equipment, their apparel, but it's Bauer, and we're fully supportive of that. Right? I mean, they're building great quality stuff, and we can stand behind that. And for your listeners, we're starting up a challenge called Snap to Ice Challenge, hashtag Snap to Ice Challenge, where you can post videos to social and in your Bauer gear and show off your skills and shots based off a lot of the training that we have in TeamSnap, and you have opportunities to win scholarships, both for your club, for school, etc. through that. So more information on our website, on the Bauer website. But we're balancing kind of how do we help arm and educate the coaches and parents, and at the same time being able to use our position to be able to get back to the community.
Fair enough.
Mike, did you have a question? I felt like we jumped on you there a couple of times.
No. It was really just referring back to the technology and the use of it, and just making sure. I think one of the challenges I think all the time is when parents will say, "Oh, that app, I can't use that app," or "That stinks," or "This piece I don't like." And I think it really comes down to, well, it's what you put into it is what you get out of it, right? So if you have somebody that doesn't do a good job of putting schedules in, or doesn't do a good job of building lists, or do a good job of getting all the parents, giving them the easy link to say, just press here and sign up. That's all you got to do. And I think, so like, some of you come in the rink, I didn't know the practice was changed. Are you on the app? No, I'm not on the app. Okay, well, that probably doesn't help that you're not on the app. But I think our reliance on the tools, right, is really more of a reason to have all these other great features within the tool, because I think my goal as an organizational leader is to always drive people back to the central place where information accumulates. And I think as much of that information that can be housed in one click for me as an organizational leader is much better than saying, "Hey, I need you to download these suite of apps, and you're going to go here for learning, you're going to go here for schedules, you're going to go here for this practice
Right.
plan,
You
and
already
you're going
lost
to go
me.
here."
I'm already
Yeah,
lost, and I run
yeah.
a technology company, right?
Right. I think it's
reality.
just like I can't have 7 different logins to find all the information that you're providing to me. You, one single person.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you could bring everything into one, under one tent, and be in a situation where, whether you're a Bauer fan or not, doesn't even matter. It's the information's there for you to use. It's not like you can't use it if you're not wearing Bauer shin guards. It's just that the bottom line is there's a partnership in there, and I think people need to appreciate the fact that in order to get that information out to the consumer and the player, there needs to be something on the other side supporting that. And whoever it is, we should all be thankful that somebody's doing it, so that, like you're saying, I mean, I think 80% of us that are in the youth hockey space in any sport are volunteers and aren't professionals in what we do. And I think that's one of the most important pieces about having all this support around us, is to say, "Oh, you're telling me I can have an 8-week lesson plan? I just have to press the button? Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. That's what I love." And then as you become we talk about this on our show all the time, is as you become, like, the whole love about coaching is coaching. So now once you get those guardrails in place and say, "Okay, here's the basics of what I should be doing," then you can start interjecting your own development pieces and your own ability to watch players progress by making it harder and harder and harder. That might not be in your app, but I'm sure there's opportunity to learn and keep exploring from that. But I love the fact that you can go to one place, find everything you need, and then move on from there. But again, it was just really more the
You're so
conversation.
right, Mike. It takes so much of the stress away so that you can be a volunteer told. I love that phrase, by the way. You can be a coach. You can be a hockey parent with all that extra organizational stress. It really makes a difference.
Yeah, and it's also meeting the coaches and the parents where they are, right? And we were talking about Bauer. We also have an incredible partnership with a company called Hockey Coach Vision, and we have hundreds of skills, ice hockey plays, like things that are actually animated. They're mapped out, more of the X's and O's of how to run the drill, how to run the play, how to introduce this to the kids for more advanced coaches, right? And so it's kind of meeting the different levels of coaches where they are to ensure that the content's relevant, the materials are useful, and that we're aligning to where their skill sets are.
Yeah, Pete, I'm laughing because it's a sticking point for Mike and I and Christy too, that we do not know how any coach in hockey can show up unprepared for a practice today, because first off, it is very easy to find practice plans.
Right.
You've made it even easier,
Yeah.
and we're talking about the aggregation of everything into one place. And I think it's such a help. I mean, because here's the thing, volunteer coaches, you are busy. You have a lot of things going on. And I know we all say, I wish there was just a place I could click and have a practice plan.
Yeah.
That's out there. And one of the cool things about the Bauer partnership, I want to actually ask you about the creative side of this, because it's not just one thing. I noticed when I went in there's a lot of information for new hockey families about fitting and gear. And obviously it's led by Bauer, but it's good information regardless. And then it kind of expands from there. Can you talk about maybe the creative process or the conversations that happened of, okay, we're teaming up. What does that mean? How did you decide where the value was going to be, and then how that was implemented into the day-to-day?
Yeah. So we've got a spectrum of different levels of content, right? I mentioned Hockey Coach Vision. That was more, they created their content. They stand alone. We're packaging it within kind of the TeamSnap package. So like all the descriptions, things are easier to consume. But we're really repurposing a lot of that in order to provide that central hub. Then we have the fully kind of ground up produced content. And Bauer was unique in that Bauer's invested in and built their own Bauer studio, which is this just massive complex to create, whether it's, content, highly produced content, and videos around their commercials, their apparel, all the way through what we now have in our app, which is taking their equipment, taking their apparel, and being able to maximize the effectiveness of that during practice. And then also how do you expand into being able to educate and provide real value to families. But it is a true partnership. In other instances, whether it be the PLL, Professional Lacrosse League, NFL Flag, I mean, we sat down and bottoms up built the entire inventory and library of content. I mean, the NFL Flag content we filmed for a week at SoFi Field. And it was in collaboration with the NFL Flag team. And we took their playbook, we digitized it. We built an entire slew of hundreds of 30-second highly produced videos on SoFi Field. PLL, we filmed about 9 months ago. We were in SoCal down at one of their locations. We had all their coaches on the field. We recruited a bunch of kids for 3 days. And it is it's a ground up, production of content, right? This isn't something you can slap together. And that's also, where we've, in a very crowded content space, there is no doubt you can go on YouTube and find any content you want.
Yeah.
But is it good? Is it relevant? And is the quality of it there? And that's been the bar that we set. And you can see that with the bench of logos that we've done this with in terms of the partnerships we have.
Yeah, and you can see, like, what's the exact phrase of, if you're a master of everything, you're a master of nothing, right? And in today's technological age, look, there's no lack of information, but finding good information, as you said. I want to say that again, because we tell kids all the time, YouTube is a great resource, but hopefully you're watching something of someone who knows what they're talking about. So I love that you guys have brought this in. Again, I wonder if our listeners know this is active in TeamSnap right now. I was looking at it yesterday. There's a lot of information there for coaches, for players, for parents. Now, I have to ask you a CEO question. I'm going to ask it from a point of view of a consumer. This is an important question. And I'm going to preface it too. You said you have 200 employees, you said, correct?
Yep.
You have multiple sports. You got a lot of, this is a business that Pete is running. Okay. There's a lot of paid options in this app. Okay. Yep. And I want to give you the audience here to tell people why some of the things are paid. And we got to keep in mind the youth hockey audience is already paying a lot of money. You know that. You're in the game. I think it's a fair question. I think you'll have a great answer for just explaining, okay, hey, there's paid things in the app. Why do I have to pay to unlock things? Where's the value in that? Pete, your answer.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Let me hit that head on. We have a mobile platform that is has been around for a while, right? And so with that comes the need for continued investment and modernization and scale. We're talking a lot of the privacy, the security things that need to be put back into the app. We also have at any given time tens of thousands of free-based teams, meaning coaches that have come on and are using kind of the lower level of our offering just to manage their team for free. And we are not charging for that at all, but we believe there's a way to subsidize that, that we as TeamSnap want to be able to give back. And through that, we have introduced a number of different brand experiences in the user experience that at times can also feel a little bit cluttered, right? You want to go and get directions to the field. You probably don't want to know about the latest movie that's popping up. And so we need to get better, and we are going to get better about how we're introducing those brand experiences in order to help subsidize the cost of the free experience for the coaches that might not want to use the full breadth of the platform. Now, on our for paid, this is really more sitting in front of a lot of the content that we're talking about, right? And the cost of the content that we're referencing, whether it be with Bauer or whether it be the content that we've developed with NFL Flag, there's real cost around that, both production fees along with licensing fees for the IP, whether it's the IP and the content that we're receiving from these great partners or great professional leagues, or even being able to use the marks. And there's also the level of quality insurance that comes with all of the content that we are developing, right? So that you're not going down a black hole on YouTube, but you have the good housekeeping seal of approval. This has gone through 17 different layers of approval through these content partnerships, through these professional leagues, and through TeamSnap, so that we are bringing the best content that's out there to everyone. But yes, I mean, it is a business that we continue to balance, right? How do we continue to scale with how do we bring the most value to families, coaches, and sports organizations across the world?
Yeah, and Pete, it's a great answer, and I'll say this too. I think a lot of families and coaches might not realize a couple things. Like one is the business aspect of this. That you know, most of you feel that you're using this for free, but here's the thing: your organizations actually pay for this, for you to have all of these great features. So when I hear people say, "Oh, there's an ad," I tell hey, listen. They're running a business here, you know what I mean? And it was a great answer. Sorry, Christy, go ahead. I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about.
You go on any website, right?
Yeah.
And you've got the ads. But Peter, I'm kind of curious as to where you see your industry headed, because AI is changing everything now. If you had a crystal ball, maybe you could kind of peek in there and give us an idea of how things may be changing, and probably pretty rapidly, if it's any indication of what I've been seeing in my own industry.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, look, just technology and software as a whole, even where we are as TeamSnap and an organization versus where we were 12 months ago, and how we're running all of our different functions, whether it be R&D, sales, marketing, finance, like the level of efficiencies that we've been able to gain by having some very motivated leaders that frankly have gone out, educated themselves, brought in the new technology, new ways of doing things, whether it be AI enabled or elsewhere. And we as an organization are getting better for that. And that also impacts our ability to create more value quicker for our audience base. I think where this market is going, Christy, over the next 5 years, you've seen it in the last 12 to 18 months. Like, if you, with the exception of TeamSnap, there's probably about 80% of the major technology and service providers in this space that have either gone through some type of merger, investment, recapitalization, and the consolidation in our space, which, going back to the point that Mike was bringing up earlier, we as service providers have created this proliferation of 100 different apps. That's not going to last. Like, it doesn't last in any market. And so you are starting to see the combination, the partnership of technologies beginning to come together. And those that I believe are going to win are going to be the ones that do that with a lens through, is this right for the market in which we are serving? Whether it's a parent, whether it's a coach, whether it's a sports org. It's not to bring more registration volume together because we can bring down our margins and there's economies of scale, all that. Like, you can take that lens to any market. That doesn't win here. And that's one of the things that I've learned the hard way over the last 5-6 years and now being in this space. Like, the scale and the fragmentation of youth sports and thereby youth sports technology is real, right? And the seasonality in which youth sports goes through is a much different quote unquote adoption cycle of technology than you would see in any other market, or at least those that I've been a part of. And so it's scale and size and kind of distribution power of that technology. That's a real differentiator here. And so I think over the next couple of years, you will start to see a greater divide between kind of some of the larger players of scale that are able to bring that level of trust and continue to bring that level of value down into the communities, be able to unify a lot of the technologies that are out there, whether that's from everything registration, scheduling, all the way through video streaming, through training, through commerce, through apparel. Like, how do you continue to build that into a one-stop shop? Because that is a way that which we can, not just provide more value to parents and families, but frankly also help to reduce the cost.
Well, AI will not replace on-ice coaching, I hope. So I think we're at the point right now is if you can get me there, get the kid there, know where he's at, have I guess if you want to wear a headset and play hockey, that's fine all the time, but nobody's going to replace an on-ice
No, and
coach
Mike, I think
screaming and yelling at you.
It is on us to look, there's so many different technologies that are coming out of hey, we're going to analyze how your kid's skating. What is the speed? How's that combined to their health? Coach, how should we take that in and maybe, create kind of a plan for those kids? What are the wearables market that's starting to really grow? You mentioned AR, we've got to also slow down a little bit. This is about the kids learning. They're on the rink, they're on the field, they're on the court. You need a stick and a puck, and obviously the equipment that we need for ice hockey, or you need a football and some flags. They got to be out there having fun, and I think that's also where technology is probably going a little bit too deep into this youth sports value chain of the structured approach to youth sports, and I'm seeing it firsthand, is just so much different than we all grew up with. And I think all of us that are partners in the space, whether it be from a service provider, a coach, a league club operator, we've just got to balance it. We got to balance it because it's I don't think it's the best thing overall for society and for our kids right now.
Well, thank you for saying that, Peter. I agree. It can be pretty head spinning when you think about it.
Wild.
Yeah. I always joke about what we want AI to do versus what it actually does. What I want AI to do is optimize our schedule so we're not playing the same team 600 miles away that we're playing. That's the best way to optimize.
Optimize. Wait, Peter, you're going to get there with your kids. You're going to travel 600 miles, and you're going to play the same team that you played in your hometown. It will happen to you. Mark my words. Write it down today.
Well, hopefully we can help to solve some of those to avoid those trips for the Frintzilas family.
Well, Pete, I'm going to say this. I think it says a lot about you and your company that you're willing to come on a show and talk to youth hockey families about what you're doing. Many who love what you do, but some who will be critical of what you do. But the fact that you're willing to put yourself out there.
That type of feedback and those voices are the ones we want to hear. And, we've done a lot of things right. And in some places, we've probably overstepped in a couple of areas, and we're going to fix that. But we need to address that head on, right? And if not, we're not being genuine. We're not living up to the values that I think we've built this company around. And we're not perfect, right? And so appreciate everyone's patience as we continue to work through what's been a pretty significant transformation of our technology and evolution. And we're excited about where TeamSnap's going. And
it's kind of hard because youth sports parents usually aren't very, they don't really communicate their negative, side of their experience. So I'm sure it'll be a challenge for you.
You're definitely from Connecticut, Mike. With the sarcasm. That sarcasm actually had me.
Mike, you're just as cynical as I am, man. We got to spend more time together.
No, this has been great, Peter. We really appreciate coming on. I will say this to all of our listeners that at the end of the day, for me, this is my own personal endorsement. TeamSnap's the one I keep coming back to. It really does have everything. You can always find something to complain about, but as Pete said, I look for companies that are evolving and finding new ways to do things. When I get on an app and it's been the same app for 5 years, that is not going to last. And TeamSnap has really taken the step forward with your partnerships, with the features and everything you're doing, Pete. So congratulations on that. And to your whole team. I didn't realize it was 200 people. That is a massive amount of people you're employing. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Lee. Christy, Mike, great conversation. Really appreciate you having me on.
Always, man. That's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. I say it all the time. Share this in your TeamSnap. I'm sure Pete agrees with that. All right, if you found value in this. And remember, you can email us at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. The inbox is open. And as we get all the time, you can text us via a link accompanying this episode in the description of the episode. Put your name, put where you're from, ask questions, let us know. We love to talk about those on the air. For Pete, for Mike, for Christy, I'm Lee Elias. We'll see you on the next episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Take care, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.